Daytona program a little bit more,
Okay.
and how that, because I guess I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, well, how can you be so proactive and not tread on constitutional rights?
Okay.
And so I don't understand.
Whenever you mention the word profile, you get a little antsy, don't you? Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
What they've done there in Daytona Beach is, Daytona Beach, about 240 officers. Volusia County, about the size of Spokane County, 500,000 people. And what they've done is they partnered with Dr. David Farrington. He's a criminologist with the University of Cambridge. And I met him one time at a conference. He's one of these guys that kind of walks in and everyone just kind of does this, and you don't want to touch him, But he got with them and developed a program to where they would divide up the personality profiles of burglars. And I can't remember all four of them, but there are four types. And detectives were able to indice or separate their cases into those profiles. And it allowed them to apprehend these people a lot better. They pitted that program against three other control groups or three other agencies that were just regular detectives just going out and solving crime. And they improved their clearance rate about 400%. They tripled the odds of making an arrest in their cases. And of course, the financial impact was the big draw to it. The 1.6 back to the department, and then the $20 million impact to the community. Certainly something that didn't single out anyone in particular as far as race, gender, or anything like that, but as to their behavior, it did. And that's my goal. We need to go after the people that are abusing our rights, not exercising them. That's what it is. That's all about being a patriot. We get to exercise our rights.
What can you tell me about the 100-mile security zone and when you think of it?
I did some research on that after not knowing as much as I should have at the last meeting. And when I was with the state police, we went up to work with the Border Patrol, Operation Blue Lightning. And they told you that you could search anyone, of course, and this is acceptable at the border without a warrant, of course, in a customs fashion. But then there was also this extended border. And then there was what they call a functional equivalent, which is like an airport or something within the continental United States. But that extended border, when they explained it to us up there, was more or less a place near the border that you could prove that if someone was actually going to the border or coming from the border. And for us, it was that 1/8 of a mile from the line to the next street to where they could turn off. Some federal judge has decided now that that's 100 miles inland. And when you look up the requirements for stopping someone and doing one of those extended border searches, they of course you have to prove that they were either going to or coming from the border. I don't know how you do that in Spokane. Number two, that the scope of the search doesn't change, so it's still a custom search. You're looking for stuff that people would either maybe having to violate commerce laws or terrorism or things like that, and that there has to be reasonable suspicion. Even though it's done without a warrant, there has to be reasonable suspicion. Over a 3-year period, 6,500 of these extended border searches were completed. Half of them were U.S. citizens. So roughly you're talking over a 3-year period, 1,000 U.S. citizens a year were subjected to these searches. I don't know where those searches were done. Given that context, is it something that, as a Spokane County Sheriff, that's going to be number one on my list of things to deal with? Probably not, but it should worry you a little bit that a federal judge has decided that there is a 100-mile extended border and that 2/3 of the nation lives within that 100 miles. And again, the person who asked me the question, I said, well, what is the evidence of your fear, And couldn't really point to any particular sensationalized incident that we've had here in Spokane County or one even up in Boundary County. I did hear Joel Kretz talk about some of the things that are going on up there where they have done some of those searches, but I think it was state officers that were doing them. And again, I can't remember what he said. This was about 2 months ago. But Joel did talk about some of that stuff. So I'm concerned about it, and I think, and I'll challenge you. When was the last time you invited Mike Ormsby to come out here, U.S. Attorney General for Eastern Washington? You ought to do that. He's the one that needs to really be on the hot seat, to answer some of those questions. And Mike's a nice guy, but as Spokane County Sheriff, I would probably want to say, hey, let's go show up at some meetings together. Let's talk about this and get this out in the open and discuss really what is the purpose of a 100-mile extended border. So that's what I'm going to do when I'm elected.
Just wondering what you think.